The vast silence of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the distant glimmer of dying stars. The Orion Expanse, a system teeming with raw minerals and a vital wormhole to uncharted sectors, had become humanity's last line of defense. And now, the enemy was here. Admiral Ethan Voss stood rigid on the bridge of the UTS Valkyrie, his steel-gray eyes fixed on the holodisplay. The Zalvani fleet had arrived, 40 warships, their sleek, organic designs pulsing with a sickly green glow. A brute force invasion. Arrogant. Predictable. Status? Voss asked, voice calm, measured. Commander Elena Hayes, his second-in-command, swept her fingers across the control panel. Zalvani fleet emerging from FTL. They're forming an attack line. No caution, no recon, just a straight charge. Voss exhaled slowly. They thought this would be easy. At the center of the enemy formation, a behemoth of a vessel loomed, the Varric, the flagship of Warlord Kairos. A broadcast request blinked on the display. The warlord wanted to talk. Voss smirked. Put him through. The hollow projector flickered, and the reptilian visage of Kairos filled the air. His ridged brow furrowed, golden eyes gleaming with disdain. Admiral Voss. I had hoped to face a more formidable opponent. Instead, I see a handful of ships, delaying the inevitable. Voss crossed his arms. You don't know much about humans, do you? Kairos chuckled, the sound guttural and thick with amusement. I know enough. You spread like a plague, consuming everything in your path. But your kind is weak. Undisciplined. Unworthy of the stars. Voss gave a slow nod. And yet here you are, talking instead of firing. A flicker of irritation crossed Kairos' face. I was offering mercy. You should be grateful. Voss tilted his head. You mistake patience for weakness. But you'll learn soon enough. Kairos bared his sharp teeth. Then die screaming, Admiral. The transmission cut. Silence settled over the bridge. Then Hayes exhaled. Charming as ever. Voss turned back to the display. The Zalvani fleet inched forward, their plasma batteries warming up. They expected a brawl. A direct engagement. They were about to get neither. Lieutenant Park, Voss called. Are the decoy ships in position? The young officer tapped rapidly at his console. Yes, sir. They're broadcasting full power signatures. Should look like capital ships on enemy sensors. Good. Voss glanced at Hayes. Initiate the feint. Let's see how eager they are. The UTDF had deployed a cluster of automated decoy ships near the system's asteroid belt, tricking enemy scanners into detecting a larger force. A calculated risk. If Kairos took the bait, he'd reposition his forces, exposing his vulnerable flanks. A moment passed. Then another. Enemy fleet shifting course. Hayes reported, a note of triumph in her voice. They're moving to engage the decoys. Looks like they think our main force is hiding there. Voss allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Predictable. Bring our real fleet into formation, he ordered. Flank them before they realize their mistake. Engines roared to life. The Valkyrie and her sister ships, Resolute, Tempest, and Ironclad, cut through the void, slipping around the Zalvani's exposed side. The humans were outnumbered, but numbers meant nothing if the enemy was looking the wrong way. Commander, target their rear guard. Priority, propulsion systems. I want them immobile. Aye, sir. The order echoed through the fleet, and within seconds, the first volley erupted. Hyper-accelerated railguns fired at near-light speeds, piercing Zalvani hulls before their shields could fully engage. Explosions rippled through the formation as the Dominion warships scrambled to react. The Valkyrie weaved between the chaos, her cannons spitting fire. A Zalvani destroyer tried to turn, but a barrage from the Ironclad tore its engines apart, sending it spiraling into deep space. Enemy fleet is disorganized, Park reported. They're trying to realign, but... A new alarm blared. Hayes cursed. They're launching torpedoes. Defensive countermeasures, now! Voss barked. Point defense turrets spun to life, shredding incoming warheads. Some slipped through. The Tempest took a hit to her starboard side, fire blooming along her hull. Status on the Tempest? Voss demanded. Shields at 40%, Hayes said. They're still in the fight. Voss nodded. Then let's finish this. Kairos had been too confident. He had charged in expecting an easy slaughter. Now his fleet was caught between a hammer and an anvil, human ships tearing into his formation, while the asteroid belt prevented an easy retreat. Bring us into firing range of the Varric, Voss ordered. Let's have a word with the warlord. The Valkyrie surged forward. The Zalvanni flagship loomed ahead, its spiked hull still pristine. Voss opened a channel. Kairos. The warlord's image reappeared, his composure fractured. You insolent! Voss cut him off. You came here expecting a lesson in conquest. Instead, you got one in human warfare. Stand down. Now. Kairos' eyes burned with fury. I will. Then watch this. Voss turned to Hayes. Target the Varric's engines. Full barrage. The Valkyrie fired. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the Zalvanni command ship. Flames burst from its propulsion systems, and the once mighty warship shuddered like a wounded beast. Kairos' face twisted in disbelief. This battle is over, Voss said, voice cold. Withdraw. Or be destroyed. For the first time, Kairos hesitated. Then the transmission cut. A moment later, the remaining Zalvanni ships began to retreat. Voss exhaled. Stand down, weapons! Let them limp home with the message. A silence fell over the bridge. Then a slow cheer rose from the crew. They had won. Hayes smirked. So, think they'll challenge us again? Voss gazed at the fading remnants of the Zalvanni fleet. Not after today. The battle should have been over. The Zalvanni had retreated. But Admiral Ethan Voss knew better than to trust an enemy's silence. Standing on the bridge of the UTS Valkyrie, he watched the hollow display with narrowed eyes. The remnants of Warlord Kairos' fleet were limping away, their engines flickering like dying embers. A calculated withdrawal. Too easy. Commander Elena Hayes stepped up beside him. Something's off, she muttered. Voss nodded. He's not beaten. He's planning something. Lieutenant Park called out from the sensor station. Sir, I'm detecting a subspace anomaly, 2 light minutes away. It's faint, but... His fingers danced across the console. Then his face paled. Sir, it's a second Zalvanni fleet. 20 warships. They're using a low-emission FTL signature to avoid detection. A cold weight settled in Voss' chest. The retreat was a ruse. Hayes swore under her breath. They're flanking us. Voss turned sharply. How long until they're within weapons range? 4 minutes, maybe less, Park answered. They'll box us in. Voss didn't hesitate. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Get us out of this kill zone. Engines roared to life as the fleet scattered. Plasma fire from the retreating Zalvanni suddenly erupted, their damaged warships springing back to life. An ambush from both sides. Tempest just took a direct hit, Hayes called. Shields at 20%. Voss clenched his jaw. If they tried to fight both groups head-on, they'd be overwhelmed. He needed to break their formation. Bring us toward the asteroid belt, he ordered. Hayes blinked. Sir, that's exactly what they won't expect. A risky move? The dense cluster of floating debris could provide cover, but navigating through at high speed was deadly. Yet it was their best shot. All ships follow my lead, Voss commanded. The fleet veered toward the asteroid field. The Zalvanni hesitated. They knew the dangers of chasing prey into unstable terrain. Enemy hesitation confirmed, Park reported. They're holding position. Voss allowed himself a grim smile. Predictable. Hayes, initiate ECM pulse. Scramble their targeting systems. A low hum filled the bridge as electromagnetic interference radiated outward. Zalvanni sensors flickered. Their firing patterns grew erratic. No, Voss said. Strike hard. From the shadows of the asteroids, the Valkyrie and her fleet emerged, guns blazing. The Zalvani ships, momentarily blinded, couldn't react in time. Railgun rounds slammed into their hulls, detonations ripping through their ranks. Their lead cruiser is down! Hayes shouted. A Zalvani warship spun out of control, colliding with an asteroid. Another exploded as the ironclad tore through its weakened shields. The ambush had turned against its orchestrators. But the battle wasn't over. Park's console beeped urgently. Warlord Cairo's flagship is moving fast. Voss turned toward the display. The Varric, damaged but still functional, was accelerating toward the center of the human fleet. A desperate gamble. They're going for a suicide charge, Hayes realized. Voss acted instantly. Focus all fire on their propulsion systems. Stop them before they get too close. Weapons locked on. The Valkyrie fired. Blue streaks of ion energy seared through the darkness, slamming into the Varric's engines. The Zalvani flagship shuddered, slowing. But not enough. They're still coming, Hayes warned. Voss made his decision. Prepare for close-quarters engagement. We're ending this now. The Valkyrie surged forward, closing the distance. The Varric loomed ahead, its hull still bristling with weapons. As soon as they were within range, Kairos opened a direct channel. His face was a mask of rage. You think you've won? Voss met his glare, unwavering. You've already lost. The Zalvani warlord bared his teeth. Then let's see if you have the stomach for real war. The transmission cut, and Kairos' ship unleashed everything it had. Plasma cannons fired in a relentless barrage, slamming into the Valkyrie's shields. Warning klaxons blared across the bridge. Shields at 30%, Park called. Voss remained steady. Divert power to forward barriers. Keep pressing. The two warships circled each other like dueling predators. Every hit shook the Valkyrie, but the human vessel kept firing. Railgun rounds punched through the Varric's hull, tearing through its armor. Then, finally, direct hit to their main reactor, Hayes shouted. The Varric convulsed. Explosions rippled along its body. Fire erupted from its engines. The great warship groaned, its structure failing. Voss opened one last channel. Kairos. The Zalvani's image appeared, blood trickling from a wound on his forehead. Voss spoke evenly. You wanted a war. This is what it looks like. The screen flickered out as the Varric detonated. A blinding explosion tore through space, sending debris flying. The Zalvani fleet, seeing their leader's demise, panicked. Park's voice cut through the silence. They're retreating, sir. Voss exhaled. Let them go. A long pause. Then a lone murmur of relief spread through the bridge. They had survived. Hayes leaned against the console, shaking her head. Damn. That was close. Voss nodded. Too close. But it was over. The Zalvani had learned a lesson today. And if they ever returned, humanity would be ready. The battlefield was silent now, but Admiral Ethan Voss knew peace was an illusion. From the bridge of the UTS Valkyrie, he watched the retreating Zalvani ships shrink into the void, their scattered remnants barely holding formation. The once mighty warlord Kairos was gone, his flagship reduced to drifting debris. The human fleet had survived, battered but victorious. Yet something gnawed at Voss. It was too easy. Commander Elena Hayes studied the tactical display. They ran. Just like that? Voss folded his arms. No. Not just like that. Kairos wasn't the type to go down without a contingency plan. Hayes exhaled sharply. Then what are we missing? Before Voss could answer, Lieutenant Park's console chimed urgently. Sir, incoming transmission from High Command. Priority 1. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral Jonathan Mercer. His stern face was shadowed with concern. Ethan, Mercer said, skipping formalities. The Zalvani attack wasn't an isolated event. We've intercepted encrypted transmissions. Something bigger is coming. Voss straightened. Define bigger. Mercer's expression darkened. Multiple fleets. Thousands of ships. The Dominion isn't just retaliating. They're mobilizing for war. A chill settled over the bridge. Hayes broke the silence. How long until they reach us? Days. Maybe less. Mercer's voice was grim. We need to consolidate our forces, but reinforcements are still en route. You'll have to hold the line. Voss nodded. Understood. The transmission cut. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Hayes let out a slow breath. So much for celebrating. Voss turned to Park. Get me a full damage report. I need to know exactly what we're working with. Park nodded and began running diagnostics. The bridge buzzed with quiet urgency as officers coordinated repairs and tactical adjustments. The fleet had suffered losses, but they still had teeth. Minutes later, Park looked up. Sir, Tempest is holding, but barely. Ironclad has taken moderate damage. Resolute is still combat ready. He hesitated. But our ammunition reserves are low. Voss frowned. How low? We've got enough for one prolonged engagement, maybe 2 skirmishes. After that, Park trailed off. Hayes muttered a curse. If we burn through everything in the first wave, we'll be defenseless when the real attack comes. Voss tapped his fingers against the console, thinking. They couldn't win a battle of attrition. The Zalvani had numbers. Humanity had strategy. That had to be enough. Then an idea struck him. Commander, Voss said, turning to Hayes. What's the status of the Orion relay station? She blinked, then quickly pulled up the data. Operational. But it's unarmed. Just a deep space research outpost. Exactly. Voss nodded. The Zalvani won't see it as a threat. Hayes frowned. You're thinking of using it? If we reroute its power systems and sync it with our targeting array, we could turn it into a force multiplier. Voss explained. Boost sensor range, disrupt enemy communications, maybe even scramble their fleet coordination. Park's eyes widened. That would give us a serious edge. But it's a risk. If the Zalvani realize what we're doing, they'll come straight for it. Hayes finished. Voss met her gaze. That's what we want. If we control the battlefield, we control the fight. A silence hung between them, then Hayes exhaled. Well, Admiral, I hope you enjoy playing bait. Voss allowed a small smirk. Wouldn't be the first time. The relay station hung in the void, its metallic surface gleaming under distant starlight. A skeleton crew of engineers worked feverishly, patching together a system never designed for war. Inside, Voss monitored the progress. The station's power grid was being rerouted, its communication array repurposed to interfere with Zalvani fleet coordination. It wasn't a weapon, but it could cripple the enemy's ability to fight. Hayes paced beside him. This better work. Voss didn't look up. It will. Then the station's proximity alarm blared. Park's voice crackled over the comms. Sir! Multiple warp signatures, Zalvani fleet emerging from FTL. Voss turned sharply. How many? Park's response was like ice. Hundreds. Hayes clenched her fists. Damn it, they're early. Voss activated the command channel. All units, battle stations. Hold the line. Through the viewport, the enemy fleet unfolded like a storm. They had come. Now it was time to make them regret it. The void burned with fire. Admiral Ethan Voss stood on the bridge of the UTS Valkyrie, watching the battle unfold in brutal clarity. Zalvani warships descended like an unstoppable tide, weapons igniting the darkness. The human fleet was outnumbered, outgunned, but not outmatched. Focus fire on their command ships, Voss ordered, voice steady despite the chaos. Cut off their coordination. Railguns roared to life, sending tungsten slugs ripping through enemy hulls. Ion lances carved through shields. The Valkyrie surged forward, weaving through debris and detonations. Commander Elena Hayes worked the tactical board with cold precision. Orion Station is fully linked. Their comms are starting to scramble. Voss watched the data stream. Zalvani formations faltered as the relay station's interference disrupted their fleet synchronization. Orders were lost, movements grew erratic. Their numerical advantage meant nothing if they couldn't fight as one. "Sir, they're adapting," Lieutenant Park warned. "Some ships are switching to manual command." Voss nodded. The Zalvani weren't fools. They had contingencies. So did he. "Deploy strike teams," he ordered. "We take the fight to them." Lieutenant Commander Eric Rains locked his mag boots onto the enemy hull as his strike team landed. Plasma fire erupted from Zalvani defenders, forcing the humans into cover. "Move fast," Rains barked. "Get to the reactor core." They stormed forward, cutting down hostiles with disciplined bursts. The corridors of the enemy's ship were thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal. Corporal Tanaka lobbed a detonation charge against the bulkhead. The explosion ripped through, exposing the core chamber. "Breach secured." Rains stepped inside, pulse pounding. The reactor glowed with unstable energy. If they overloaded it, the dreadnought would tear itself apart, along with half the Zalvani fleet. He set the charges. "Time to go." A guttural roar sounded behind him. A towering Zalvani warrior lunged, blade flashing. Rains barely dodged, feeling the heat of the strike skim past his armor. He fired point-blank, once, twice. The alien collapsed. "Detonation in 90 seconds, Tanaka called. Rains hit his calm. "Valkyrie, we're clear." Voss' voice came through. "Understood. Get out now." Voss watched as Rains' team ejected from the dreadnought, their escape thrusters flaring. Moments later, the charges detonated. The Zalvani warship erupted in a shockwave of fire and debris, its explosion cascading into nearby vessels. A single strike had turned the tide. The remaining Zalvani forces hesitated. Then, to Voss' surprise, their ships began retreating. "They're falling back," Park confirmed. "Sir, they're running." Voss exhaled. It wasn't just a battle one, it was a message delivered. Humanity wasn't prey. It was a predator. Hayes folded her arms. "Think they'll be back?" Voss watched the shattered remnants of the enemy fleet vanish into the void. "If they are," he said, "we'll be ready."